everyone, I'm Greg Mercer, the founder and CEO of Jungle Scout. I've been selling on Amazon for over 10 years. And if I had to start all over today, I'm gonna be discussing exactly how I would go about finding that perfect first product and making my first $1,000 on Amazon. Now, if you remember nothing else, I want you to walk away with these two things. Avoid at all costs finding a product that does not have good demand. So we want products that people are already searching for and purchasing on Amazon. And number two, do not sell products with low profit margins. So we'll be discussing how to find those fabulous products that have great profit margins. There are tens of millions of products that sell well on Amazon, and we need to search through those and sort through those to find those perfect products for you. In this video, I'm going to be discussing how I go about finding those products, what to look for, what to avoid, and give you all the tips, tricks, and hacks that you need to find that great product for you. Throughout this video, we're going to be using Jungle Scout to help us find that perfect product. It's a really powerful tool because it gives you all of the data and insights to understand exactly what's happening on Amazon. You can figure out what customers are searching for, what they're purchasing, what products are selling well, which ones aren't, how much money you can make from it, and really get a deep analysis of what's working well and what's not, and uncover those hidden gems on Amazon. That's what we're going to be finding today. I often get asked the question, is it a good time to sell on Amazon? And the answer to that is yes, it's still a fabulous opportunity selling products on Amazon. At the end of the day, this is where consumers are shopping. The vast majority of e-commerce sales are still happening on Amazon, and you want to be selling your products where the shoppers are at. With that being said, each year and as time goes by, the tips and tactics and tricks that are working do change. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video of how you can find a fabulous opportunity for 2024. Are there more sellers on Amazon? Yes, there are. But there are also more consumers purchasing goods. And the cool thing about Jungle Scout is over the years, we continue to adapt it and make it better so that you have that competitive edge to figure out where these good opportunities are. Today, I'm going to be going over a few parts of Jungle Scout, but we're going to start with two of my favorite tools inside of the product database and the opportunity finder. The product database takes all of Amazon's products and lets you search through using a whole bunch of different pieces of criteria to find an awesome product. The opportunity finder actually looks at niches or opportunities as a whole. So it takes groups of products together and it rates them for things like how much demand or how much competition or seasonality there is. And we'll be going over some details of that. So the product database has taken all of the products on Amazon. They've put them in this Jungle Scout database that makes it easy to search and sort through them based off the characteristics that we're looking for. Let's start by talking about the categories. Now, you can sell in any of these categories if you would like, but a few tips that I have for you is one, try to find a product that's relatively simple. Products that are more complex or more complicated or more likely to have issues with them and just in general are a larger headache for you. On top of that, it's kind of nice to sell inside of a category that you at least know a little bit about. Shortly, I'm going to talk about finding products that we can improve on. And if you're at least vaguely familiar with these types of products, that's typically easier to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start by choosing a few of these categories, but I'm not necessarily saying that these are the best ones or the ones that you should be looking in. There are opportunities in all these different categories. As far as the filters over on the right-hand side, I'm going to start with a few different things. One is I'm going to choose only standard product tier sized. Essentially what that means is this product can about fit inside of a shoebox. Oversized items have a lot more complexities with them. There are lower storage limits. They are more expensive as far as Amazon fees are concerned. And in general, there's going to be more headaches for you. So for your first product, I would really recommend choosing a standard tier size. After that, I'm going to click on the good ROI filter. What this is doing is it's saying products that are at least 20 bucks. And after Amazon takes their fees, there's at least $15 left over for you. At the beginning, I talked about making sure to find a product that has good profit margins with it. So you do not want to be selling a product that sells for like 20 bucks and only $5 is left over after Amazon fees. So we want to make sure there's a healthy gross margin after Amazon fees, and that's what the net revenue represents. Before I search, the last thing I want to do is make sure that there's healthy demand for these products. So you can do this with units sold. So I'm gonna say, only show me the products that sell at least 100 units per month. And this is a great baseline for someone who's just starting out. So let's go ahead and search and see what pops up. All of the products shown below are Amazon products that now meet the criteria that I put in here. So they're relatively small, sell for at least 20 bucks. There's at least $15 left over after Amazon fees. And the ones shown sell at least 100 units every month. As I start looking through this for ideas, there's a few things that I keep my eye out for. One, I want something pretty simple. So not too many moving parts, ideally no electronics, really just the simpler, the better. The other thing that I personally really like is products that are kind of strange. What you'll find is the cool and sexy products typically have a lot more sellers, and the ones that are kind of weird or strange are typically a lot less competitive and have better margins with them. So I'm seeing some screws on here. To me, that kind of passes the weird test. Those are not necessarily a cool or sexy thing to be selling. I'm seeing some other cool ideas on here, like make your own beeswax candle kit. To me, that's kind of strange. Different hardware and fittings, plumbing parts, cabinet poles, those could all be potentially good ideas. Things like light bulbs, to me, that's not simple enough, and it's too likely that there could be issues with it, or there's just gonna be more headaches associated with it. I'm seeing other things like a doggy dare trash can lock. To me, that passes the weird test, and it's not a cool or sexy product that probably has a lot of competition with it. So now you can start to get a sense of all the different product ideas that the product database is showing me. In a few minutes, I'll go into more depth on how I decide which of these product ideas are good. But for now, I'm just going for quantity of different product ideas. As you're coming up with all these different product ideas, the way that I like to keep track of them is by clicking on these three little dots and then add products to product tracker. And what this will do is this will create a group inside of the product tracker over here, which is just a great way to collect all your different product ideas. For the next example, I'm going to talk about how I find products that are good opportunities to improve on the product. And really, if I had to choose just one way to go about finding a product in 2024, I think this would be my preferred route. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to find products that are selling well, even though they get relatively bad reviews. I'm then going to show you how to use a really cool tool inside of Jungle Scout to figure out why it's getting bad reviews and what you can do to make improvements on it. To do this, I'm going to click on the poor products filter, and the modification I'm going to make here is to say only show me products that have at least 50 reviews, and the max star rating over here is 3.6. So what this is telling me is this product sells for at least 20 bucks. It sells at least 100 units per month. It has at least 50 reviews, but all those reviews combined have 3.6 stars or less. So that's a pretty bad rating on Amazon. And what this is telling us is customers really want this type of product, even though it doesn't get very good reviews. That means that these are great opportunities for you to figure out what's wrong with them, make improvements to it, and sell something better than what the competitors are selling. So I'll go ahead and search. So now the product database is showing me all the products that meet my criteria. And these are products that a lot of people are buying, even though they're getting bad reviews. So let's use this insulation tube as an example. So this is insulation that you put over your pipes probably outside. It's selling 122 units per month, even though it has 3.6 stars. What this is telling me is people want this even though it's getting bad reviews. So if you were to make this product better, you could likely outsell this competitor and sell more of them. To figure out how to make it better, what we can do is use a really cool product inside of Jungle Scout called Review Analysis. Paste in your ASIN, let Review Analysis do its magic. And what's happening here is AI is actually reading all the reviews on this Amazon listing and then giving you a summary of what it found. Included in this are cool things like the common negative comments and even how to improve this product. So what this is telling me is an improvement could be by making the self-adhesive tape better, making it longer, and offering better packaging so that it doesn't get smashed when in transit. It's also really cool because the review analysis can tell me how it compares to other similar products in the market, which is amazing, as well as how to beat this product if I wanted to sell it. So this is a really, really powerful way to get AI to do a whole bunch of reading and summarizing for you instead of you spending hours and hours trying to read through every single review. Let's take a look at another example. This product right here, it looks like it's a pallet buster tool. So I guess a tool you use to break up shipping pallets. And if I search for it inside of AI review analysis, I can do the same thing, look at the negative comments, how to improve it, how it compares to similar products. And what I see in here is that customers are really looking for something that uses stronger and more durable materials. And it even gives examples of how we could do that or what type of materials that we could use. So this would be something that would be pretty easy to find a supplier for and then talk to them about, hey, can we use these different materials that are more durable or higher quality? Because that's obviously what customers are looking for. I spoke earlier about how we make sure there's good demand for products. And when you look at products inside of Jungle Scout's product database, it's just showing you how well that single product sells. Now that is a good indicator for how much demand there is. But before moving forward with a product, what I like to do is go over to Amazon itself, search for what you think is the keyword that best describes it. And then I really like to use the Jungle Scout Chrome extension to just see how well all the products on that first page are selling. So if I look at the different products here, it looks like most of these are selling between 100 and 200 units per month, which for something of this price point is actually pretty good demand. I would say that's a nice sweet spot in that there's plenty of demand for it. So customers are definitely looking for and shopping and buying this product, but it's also not something that sells like tens of thousands of units per month because those are typically going to be more competitive. The preset filters inside of the product database are a fabulous way to get started understanding how you can use this feature inside of Jungle Scout. So for example, items with bad marketing, what this does is it sets the listing quality score at a maximum of 6. So what you can do is you can find products that are selling well, let's say like 500 units per month, even though they have a bad listing. And that would be a good indicator again that there is high demand for this type of product. And there's an opportunity here for you because you can make a better listing than what this seller has. Another tip I'd like to share with you is as we're thinking about products that have good margins, one of the things that can really increase your Amazon fees quickly is the weight of the product. So I recommend when you're looking for your first product to choose something that's standard size product tier, but then also has a maximum weight of 2, 3, 4 pounds. That's ideal over something that's much heavier than that. Let's talk about the opportunity finder. This is a really powerful way to look at groups of products or niches on Amazon. So similar to the product database, there's a bunch of different filters here. You can choose your categories, but then over on the right-hand side, now we can do really cool things like how much seasonality this type of product has. You can of course look at how well it sells, so meeting that demand criteria that I talked about earlier, and some other powerful things that I'm going to talk about. For the first example, I'm going to say only show me products that sell at least, let's say 200 units per month on average, and the minimum price per unit is $20. I'm going to set my seasonality to at maximum medium, and hopefully this removes a lot of those products that are only selling well around Christmas time. Let's start with this search. These are all the niches or opportunities on Amazon that meet that criteria. So let's start by looking at this one, journal for adults. When I click into view, this is really powerful. I can start by looking at what types of products are these. Okay, I get an idea. They're different journals for adults. But what's cool is over the past 2 years, I can look at on average, how well do these products sell? So they sell really well. They've sold more in Q4, but even before that, they were selling at least about 1,000 units per month. On top of that, I can see how the average price of these products have trended. They're mostly between $16 and $24 for a period of time. It was a little bit more than that. And then I can also see though how well the search volume is. So how many people are searching for this keyword, journal for adults, over time. And then I love to see the seasonality, because what you'll find is certain products will peak during a certain time of the year. Those are typically more challenging, especially for beginners, because it makes your inventory planning, inventory management more difficult if you sell like half of your sales in 1 or 2 months out of the year. As I'm scanning through all these different opportunities, I'm looking for products that seem like they're kind of weird, that they are something that people would be searching for besides a specific brand name, and something that's relatively simple. So let's look into this. Book pouches. The niche score is an 8 out of 10. The niche score takes into account how much demand there is for this product, how competitive it is, as well as how much seasonality is associated with it. So these book pouches are things that you store your books in. People probably use them for their textbooks. If we look at how seasonal they are, there is the most demand right before school starts. But as we can see, they actually sell pretty well all year long. And I see that same trend when I look at how many units have been selling over time. I also see that it looks like this is overall trending up. Like in the past 6 months or so, book pouches have been selling better than what they were the year before that. The average price has been going down over time, but it's still at a healthy price point, $20 to $40-ish. And this is a pretty simple product and a little bit weird or obscure, both of which I like. Since this meets most of my criteria, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to choose a few of these products and go ahead and add them to my product tracker into my 2024 product ideas. So the opportunity finder is a great way to come up with these different opportunity or different niche ideas. My favorite filters to use are the average monthly units sold. When we're looking at something that has healthy demand, I would recommend 200, 300 units per month, something around there. That means about 10 units per day. Average monthly price is important to be looking for products that I would say minimum $20, $25, $30 would even be better than that. Below that, it's gonna be difficult to get good gross margins. And then the search trends are really nice to use because you can find what types of niches or opportunities are trending up or at minimum flat. You ideally don't want something that's kind of a dying niche or dying opportunity. The competition slider is really cool because essentially you can get a sense of how competitive it's going to be based off things like how many sellers there are, how good their listings are, how many search terms there are, things like that. So I would recommend trying to find something that's not very high competition, at minimum high, but ideally medium or below that. You can play around with these different filters in these different categories to start to find different opportunities that are good for you. If you start to hone in on something that you like, I would encourage you to type it into the include keywords. And what that's going to do is it's going to find adjacent opportunities that include search terms like that. I encourage you to play around with these different filters, do different searches inside of different categories to start to find something that meets this criteria of having good demand with it, passes kind of this weird test, is something that's not too big and not too heavy, and has a minimum price point of at least $20, $25 or $30 would be better than that. Once you've done that, add these products into your product tracker so you can keep track of all these different ideas that you have. After that, we're gonna go one step deeper to get a sense of how much it's gonna cost to source these products. And that's really important for figuring out what your margins are gonna be. As I mentioned earlier in the video, if you remember nothing else, remember that we're looking for something that has good demand and also has plenty of margin for you, so that you can make sure that this is a profitable product. So I'm in my product tracker. I've added these different products that we've found in this demo into my 2024 product idea group. And I'll show you how I go about finding a general idea of what it's gonna cost to get these products manufactured. We'll just take this top example, the book pouch. And the best way to get a general sense of how much a product's gonna cost is on Alibaba. In Alibaba, I'm just gonna type book pouch and I start to see some products that are similar to what we were looking at on Amazon. And just scrolling through this, it looks like most of these book pouches are maybe $1 on the lower end $2, $3 on the upper end. So from that, you can get a pretty good sense of what it's going to cost. Let's call it $2 per book pouch. Now, depending on what the material is and if you make modifications to it and things like that, this can differ, but it is important to just get a general sense of what something like this is going to cost so that we can start to do some profitability or margin calculations. The easiest way to calculate your profitability is inside the Chrome extension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for these book pouches on Amazon, and then I can go in here and let's take a look at this one that sells for $24 and sells about 600 per month. If I click on the net profit, it brings up this little calculator. And if I put in here, let's call it $3 and then calculate profit, this is how much money I would make after I've paid for the goods and Amazon has taken out all their fees. Now, this doesn't include things like advertising or shipping the product from China into Amazon. So I also want to take those into account. Now, I'm pretty familiar with shipping stuff from China. Something like this, we could probably add an extra couple dollars to account for shipping. So let's say our overall product cost is going to be $5. This particular item would still give us a healthy profit. Now, as I look at the Chrome extension, there are quite a few that are less expensive than this. So I would want to do a deeper analysis to figure out why this person is able to sell theirs for more than others. I could use Jungle Scout's review analysis tool to do that, or I could just start to look through some of these. Now, at a lower price point, like this one that sells for $15, if I look at the net profit calculator, and let's say $5 for total landed cost, this is still going to give me a decent amount of profit, about $5 before my Amazon advertising. But as you can see, there's much less margin on that than what one of these higher priced ones are. As you're thinking about overall profitability of your product, the two largest expenses that you're going to have by far are the cost of the goods and shipping them into Amazon. And then on top of that, Amazon's advertising. It's hard to give exact figures on what it's going to cost for Amazon advertising, but as I'm thinking about profitability or margin for my products, I'd like to use the value of 20% of the sales price for my estimated advertising budget. So for this one, for example, the product price is, let's call it $24. So the advertising would be $4.80, or we can call it $5. So if I land this product for $5 into Amazon, $5 for advertising, that would leave me $7 of profit for this product, which $7 on a $24 product, that's actually a really healthy profit margin. Let's call it 30 or 40% profit margin. So something like that I would be comfortable with. If you're doing these profit calculations and you're only left with $1 or $2 or $3 or something like that, I would encourage you to find something that's more profitable, or be looking at which sellers are able to sell their products for a premium and what attributes are similar with those different products, and be looking at what you can do to be able to charge a higher premium for the products that you're selling. As you're thinking about what is the right amount of margin, or what margin are you going to be looking for, I encourage people to be looking at margins that is essentially a 100% ROI on the landed cost of the goods. So if I'm purchasing this product for $5, or it costs $5 to get it into Amazon, so that's like the purchase price of the goods plus shipping into Amazon is $5, I'd like to aim for $5 of profit after I've also subtracted out Amazon fees. So for this one, I said there would be $7 left over after I take into account the cost of the goods and getting them into Amazon plus the advertising. So $7 return on purchasing the product for $5, that's over 100%. So for me, that's a healthy profit margin to have. And that's what I would encourage you to shoot for as you're looking for your first product. So that's how I run my process for finding products to sell. I'm looking for products that have good demand associated with them, are going to be profitable. And this is the process that I like to use for coming up with all those different ideas. Don't get frustrated if it takes a little bit of time finding the perfect product opportunity for you. It usually takes hours of searching through the product database to find that perfect product, looking through the opportunity finder, looking on Alibaba to get a rough sense of how much these are going to be selling for. And as you're getting started, I encourage you to look for more ideas as opposed to less. So it'd be great if you filled up your product tracker with like dozens and dozens of different ideas, and then you're searching through each of those. I would really encourage you to use the new review analysis to understand what customers like and what they don't like about these products, and then be thinking of ideas of how you can make your product better than any of the competitors out there. Selling on Amazon continues to be a really amazing opportunity for creating your own business. I want to give you a real life example. These are our Jungle Creations puppy pee pads. We started selling this product a couple of years ago. You can actually find it on Amazon right now, but I wanted to share the real life numbers of this particular product with you to get a sense of what this actually looks like in real life. So in the first 3 months, we lost about $7,000 when we were selling this product. Now, this is common because as you're getting those initial sales, running extra advertising to make more sales and get more reviews from it, it's typical for people to lose a little bit of money those first few months. The next few months, though, we were actually able to recoup our initial investment and start to make some profitability. And then if we look at the first year in total, we actually made about $24,000 throughout that entire period. So we launched this product about 2 years ago, and it continues to do well and has continued to do well since then. It works out to be making us about $20,000 to $25,000 per year in profit from this one individual product. So as you can imagine, if you were launching multiple products, this can turn into a pretty significant business for a lot of people. But don't worry about that too much right now. If you're just trying to get started, what's most important is you find that first product, you learn how the entire process works, you order it, you get it into Amazon and go from there. There's always more and more that you can be doing on Amazon and more that you can be learning about. But if you're watching this today and looking to just get started, I would really encourage you to just be focusing on finding what product you want to sell, getting it ordered and getting it into Amazon. During that period when they're manufacturing it, that's a great time to learn all about creating listings and doing advertising and all those types of things. But what I've found is for people who try to learn all of that before they even order their first product, it's like too much or too overwhelming, and you need to get some small wins along the way. So focus on finding that perfect product for you, getting it ordered, getting it into Amazon, and those are the most important first steps for starting on this journey. We're also gonna be doing a live Q&A session right after this, so go ahead and put the questions you have into the chat box and we'll answer them. Thank you.
Jake and I are going to be here to answer any of the questions that you might have. So
the question is from Rose on how much do you guys charge for a full course for Amazon FBA? So just at the end there, you saw Greg promote the Freedom Builder Bootcamp course that we offer, which you can find a link to that in the video description below. And we are running a deal right now up until the end of January that you can save a lot of money on that deal. So we offer a lot of free training right here on YouTube. If you don't want to, make that commitment yet to buy Jungle Scout or to buy Freedom Builder Bootcamp, so you can check out our latest How to Sell on Amazon video. It's our first video on the channel. It's like the channel trailer video. And that's like a 2-hour long full tutorial, or you can check out the Freedom Builder Bootcamp course that is taught by Greg himself, again with the link in the description below. Cool. Yeah, there was another question here that came in earlier. The question said they're struggling finding profitable products in India. So if this is you, I wanted to show you real quick here. Within Jungle Scout, our product database tool, you can actually find products in India or in other countries. So a lot of times in our videos, we use where we are living, the United States as the example, and we use these filters to find products. But you can see there's these other marketplaces here. So if I wanted to find products for India, I can actually set my criteria here and search through all the products that are being sold on the India marketplace. So this is one of the best ways to find, like you mentioned, profitable products in the India marketplace, or you can still use US data to help you find popular products. A lot of times people will use the United States data to really figure out what products they want to launch in other marketplaces. But yeah, hopefully that answers your questions and you're hopefully able to use Jungle Scout in any market that you're selling on.
Cool. All right, let's see. There's a question here from Michelle. How do I get items to Amazon? So typically, you can get products. We'll start with like where they get made. There are a lot of places that you can get products manufactured. It's very common to get products made in China, as there's a lot of manufacturing that goes on there. And so let's say that you're selling in the US, you have a few options of how to get your product shipped from, we're going to use China as an example, into the US. You can hire what's called a freight forwarder, which is essentially a shipping logistics company that handles all of that process for you. There's a number of things that go on in the background, like handling customs duties and lots of paperwork and things that honestly, I don't even know how a lot of that all works, but that's because the freight forwarder, you hire them and then they look after that process for you. So we actually have a number of videos that kind of like talk through what to look for in a freight forwarder and a little bit more detail on how that works. But essentially that's like your main option would be to hire a freight forwarder company. Another option is often you can speak to your supplier and they might have a relationship with their own freight forwarders, and you can get your supplier to organize the shipping with their freight forwarders, and then they sort of kind of organize or shepherd the shipment coming over to the US. There are still a few steps that you need to do. So even if you use a freight forwarder, you do need to create a shipment plan within Seller Central, but we have videos on how you go about that. It's a fairly straightforward process. You're essentially just telling Amazon how much you're sending in and which product, etc. But yeah, I can understand if you're brand new to this, it might seem very overwhelming and scary, like how would I get this product from another country into the US? But if you follow the steps, step by step, it is fairly straightforward. And again, we do have great resources on our YouTube channel, which you can check out to get familiar with that process. The best resource I'd recommend is if you go to our channel, there's a video called How to Sell on Amazon. It's a comprehensive 2-hour video that covers all the steps. So that's a really great crash course on how to sell on Amazon if you're interested, and it's free on our channel.
Absolutely. Here's a good question that came in earlier as well. So the question says, I made 1K in revenue in my first month selling on Amazon. It's awesome. However, I haven't been profitable yet due to PPC spend, which is very common. Any advice for a novice with a low budget on how to optimize and manage PPC? So this is a great question because as you saw at the tail end of Greg's presentation, when we launched the washable pee pads for dogs, we had about a 3-month period where we were unprofitable. And a big reason why that was because advertising. We operated with a very low price point to get customers interested in buying our products, to incentivize them. And then on top of that low price point, which was barely breaking even already, we were spending a lot of money on ads just to try to cut the line and get our product to be right in front of customers when they're shopping. And because we had low reviews at the time, it was unprofitable. We were definitely getting some clicks to our listing, but a lot of people weren't seeing the reviews that they needed to confirm their purchase, so they would not buy that product and buy a competitor's product. So that means we were losing a lot of money on PPC. So what did we do? We just stuck it out. We continued spending money. We continued losing money for about 3 months. This is totally going to be different for any different product launch. So 3 months is not just like what everybody's going to experience. That's what we experienced. And then after that point, we slowed down our spending, which means we cut back on our bids. So we went from, like, for example, $3 per click to like $2 per click. We also cut down the number of keywords after learning which keywords are really profitable, which ones aren't. And then we just continued that process of just optimizing our keyword bids and then our campaign spend as well. So I would say that my best piece of advice, if you're just starting out, like this is your month 1 or 2 or 3 even, just let it go. Try to get your first couple reviews so that your listing and conversion rate increases pretty significantly. And then you can start to scale back your spend as the months go on. But hopefully it sounds like you're off to a good start. You got $1,000 in revenue your first month. That's pretty awesome. Hopefully you're getting some reviews from that.
Yeah, there's a lesson here that I think is really important to emphasize. And I know Greg talks about it a little bit towards the end of his presentation where he shared the kind of first year journey of our washable pee pads that we sell here at Jungle Scout. But the lesson is that it's very common, or it's with this type of business, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be profitable from day one. Yep. The most common scenario and journey is it's going to take you, and I don't like to put numbers behind it because it is different depending on your product and so forth, but could be anywhere from like 3, 6, 9 months before your product becomes profitable. And I want to let anyone know that is considering getting into the business, you kind of need to have that expectation and understand that, because if you go in thinking that you're going to be profitable from day one, it's probably going to be tough, or you're probably going to get sort of blindsided when you realize that that's not how this business typically works. You know, as Greg showed in the diagram with our product, we continued to lose money, for that first 3 months, and it wasn't until after that our per unit profitability, or we became profitable. But even then, after that first 3 months, even though we were making profit each sale, we still had to make up the like $7,000-8,000 that we'd spent or lost prior to that. So then it took another few months in order to recoup that. And then it was like 9 to 12 months before we finally, like as a business, we'll say, became profitable. And that's like a fairly typical journey. So definitely keep that in mind, is that, when you first start out, you're probably going to be losing money, or at least breaking even. Like, I think breaking even is like a great goal to begin with. But then as you grow in sales and particularly reviews, you're going to be able to spend less money on PPC and eventually turn a profit.
Let's see here. A lot of good questions.
Oh yeah, you're in the queue. Let's see.
Here's a good question that I assume a lot of new sellers will have is, how much investment do I need to start? This is a good question because it totally depends on your set of circumstances, how much money you have, what your business model is. Are you gonna do private label, drop shipping, wholesale, arbitrage? Or also, what are your expectations like in your first year or two? And what I mean by that is similar to what you said. There's a method or strategy where you kind of go all out and you spend a lot of money to get a lot of inventory in, because that allows you to stay in stock for a long time to just keep selling and never have to run out of stock. But that's very expensive. What you could do though, on the other hand, is buy a low amount of inventory, which allows you to test the market, but it also just allows you to start with less funds. So maybe you only have $1,000 and you put 800 of that towards inventory, and the other 200 go towards maybe some startup costs, like some software you're using, or really anything, like even product photography. But you spend that money just on like a trial order of inventory. Now, you will be out of stock for some time and you will have to keep reordering and keep going out of stock, but that's totally fine, and it's a great way of launching a product. Ideally, you have more money and you don't go out of stock, but it's not the end of the world going out of stock, especially when you're launching a brand new product. There's not gonna be a million customers waiting for your product to come back in stock. So I would say whatever you have available, ideally around $1,000. I think most people are more comfortable launching in the $3,000 to $5,000 range. But it just depends on, again, all those little factors that I mentioned, as well as your product costs. So if you want to sell a product that's going to cost you $20 per unit from your supplier, you're going to need a little bit more money than if your product costs just $5. So I would say if you're low on funds, try to find a lower cost product, something maybe under $10. And then also don't be afraid to go out of stock and just order a trial order in the first couple of months or even the first year.
Let's frame this another way. Jake, what would be the minimum that you would want to get started today?
I think it's such like it's like all those factors. But if I were to answer, I would say like $3,000, because I would spend like 1,000 of those on product photography. I'm so bullish on photography. Like, I would rather spend more money on my photography than my first round of inventory, and then I'd spend the other $2,000 on inventory. Or if for some reason images and video cost $2,000, I would spend $2,000 there and then $1,000 on my inventory. So
yeah,
under $3,000, I'd be comfortable.
Okay, yeah. I'd be personally more comfortable closer to $5,000, but for me it would be sort of like, I think probably $3,000 would be the minimum. If it was gonna take me like months to get the extra $2,000, then I probably wouldn't wait. But if I could spend, I don't know, however long, another month or something, another few weeks and get to 5,000, I think for me, I would be more comfortable with that. Just having a little bit more inventory up front and less chance of running out of stock. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of factors like you pointed out. Cool.
Cool. Great questions, guys.
Oh, here's an interesting one from Sunrose. What words of encouragement would you give to folks who are hesitant to start selling on Amazon? Before answering that, I'm going to have a follow-up question. I'd love to hear from you. What makes you hesitant to sell on Amazon?
Yeah.
I think I can answer that a little more clearly. So I'll keep an eye on the chat. Yeah, let me know like why you're feeling hesitant, if this is, you feeling hesitant, or some reasons why you might be or people might be, and I can speak to that. So I'll come back to that one.
And anybody, feel free to let us know, because this is going to be...
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because like, actually it sort of ties in. There was another question here from Dewey. Do I need to buy courses to succeed on Amazon FBA? And the answer is no. There's so much great free education out there. Even on our channel, I mentioned this How to Sell on Amazon video. It's like a 2-hour crash course that has a lot of details in it. Not every single thing, otherwise it would go on a lot longer. But there is more than enough information out there to get started. And so I don't think a lack of education is the reason why people struggle to get started. It's more these other, I don't know what you call it, like subtle things around, I don't know, the fears and doubts and the hesitations that people might have for various reasons or whatever your specific circumstances are. And I think that's probably like a really interesting thing to talk about or try to address, is like, what are those doubts and fears that are holding people back from getting started, and trying to like help people address those. So yeah, I'm really interested to hear the answer to this question.
I'm going to bring up a question here that I've seen quite a few times in different ways in this chat here. And the question is, how can I sell in the United States from another country, and how will I get paid? So this is a very popular question we get about, how can I sell in X country from X country? And really the answer is, as long as there is a marketplace, or let me say that this way, you can sell from anywhere to anywhere. So you can live in Pakistan, you can live in India, you can live anywhere and sell in the United States. Now there are some more like detailed like tutorials on exactly how to set up things like your bank account or your business address, but really you can create a business in your country and sell in any marketplace. Amazon actually encourages you to do that. They want sellers to expand their marketplaces. Now, if you're trying to sell in your marketplace, that's even easier. But sometimes if you're just gonna live in another country and sell in another country, there's the only really like obstacles that you have is just making sure that you're like compliant with the taxes and you're submitting a few forms. But other than that, Amazon makes it really easy, and they actually encourage you to send your inventory to different marketplaces. So I don't think we have any like video content on that's recent. We might have on our Jungle Scout blog if you just go to junglescout.com and search for that type of content, or anywhere on Google and YouTube will be helpful. But it's relatively easy, and it shouldn't be a blocker to getting started selling on Amazon if you're in a different country than the US and you want to sell there.
Yeah, my biggest challenge when I first started selling on the US marketplace from Australia was the currency, because all my money was in Australian dollars, but obviously selling in US dollars and purchasing in US dollars. So my biggest challenge at the time was keeping my money in US dollars, because it wasn't efficient. You could get like I could have gotten Amazon to pay me out to an Australian bank account, and it would convert, let's say, 1,000 US into 1,500 Australian dollars, whatever their exchange rate is. But then when I exchange that back to US dollars in order to purchase more inventory, in that double exchange, I would lose money. So if it was $1,000 initially, it might end up only being $900. So I found the biggest challenge was like keeping my money in US dollars. And probably a lot of you would know, if you're outside the US, it's hard to get a US dollar bank account if you're not in the US. But the good news is that there's a lot of great solutions out there. A couple of companies that do this is called Wise, and another one's Payoneer. And so they're essentially kind of like I don't know, global banks or these financial companies that allow you to set up US dollar bank accounts from pretty much anywhere in the world. And so that you can receive money in there and then you can pay suppliers and you can keep all of your expenses in US dollars. Or, I mean, actually, even if you're selling in other marketplaces, you can set up different currencies and you can keep your money in the currency of whatever marketplace that you're selling in. And they typically offer things like debit cards as well, so that you can also use that to pay for subscriptions and things. So I found that was my biggest challenge getting started outside of the US, and there's really great solutions for it.
That's a good question. I saw there was there was a lot of questions about how to use credit cards in different countries. So Payoneer and Wise were two that Lenny recommended.
Yeah, I saw there was a question there saying, I don't have a credit card, but I want to start Amazon FBA. What can I do in this situation? I haven't set up like a new account in years and years and years, but I actually just have a debit card on file. I don't know whether if you were to try to do that today, whether it wouldn't allow you to. I think it always says like, oh, you need a credit card, but I don't think, I've never put a credit card on my account, but I don't know if it would actually stop you today or whether you could just put in I would say just try with a debit card because I know it worked for me, but that was a long time ago.
I think if it does require it now, then like you said, if you're out of the country, Wise and Payoneer, do they offer credit cards?
I don't believe, unless it's more recent, I don't believe they offer credit cards. It's more like a debit card for your bank account or, yeah.
I'm sure there's definitely overseas, outside the United States, companies that you can work with, or if you want to get one set up in the United States, like Chase and Amex are two really good companies that will give you amazing cash back. So when you do actually spend in Amazon, like whether it's through ads or whatever, maybe just your $40 account membership plan, you'll get some cash back on that, which is great for things like flights and anything else.
I would just figure out a way around it. So what I mean by that is if you're struggling to get, say, a business credit card, for example, set up, I would just put down a personal credit card just to kind of get your account set up and get started.
Right.
Now, obviously, it's not the most ideal situation. It's better to kind of have a separate bank account, credit card, and have all of your financials for your business completely separate. But I wouldn't let that get in the way of getting started. So if that means using a personal credit card just to fulfill that requirement, I would do that. And keep in mind that once you start selling and basically making sales, pretty much everything, all the charges that you'll get from Amazon will come from that balance. So it might really just be probably just the first month or two where your card on file might get charged. And then after that, everything will just come out of the balance of all the sales that you make. I think you can nominate separately where you want your PPC advertising charges to come from. But yeah, again, once you start making sales, that can all come out of that. And so it won't really ever charge your card on file. That's more just to kind of get your account set up sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents.
By the way, I saw Rose, who asked a question earlier about words of encouragement for new sellers. She messaged back saying, I'd be hesitant as I never sold on Amazon. And then also the process of shipping from another country to the US. I totally agree with that. That's actually what held me back for years was I could find products to sell. I could look at data to tell me which ones are good and bad, but how the heck do I actually reach out to suppliers? How do I work with people that can ship my product? And how do I do all that? Duties, tariffs, it was frightening. And it still kind of is, but I'm more comfortable with it now as I've done it more and more. So if that's a blocker, the whole shipping or just never done it before, I would say to cure both of those or to get past both of those, you just got to do it. And a lot of times, like Lenny mentioned earlier, you're going to be working with a freight forwarder or the supplier will have their own freight forwarding companies that they work with to handle all of the logistics. You just got to sign a few things, you got to go through some paperwork, and then you got to get different quotes from different freight forwarders to make sure you're getting the best price. But you actually don't need to do that much. I think that's a misconception is that you have to be there every step of the way, whereas really a freight forwarder will handle most of it for you. So they're the ones that make it possible and easy for you to actually get your products from China to the United States. It's still like this like huge unknown when you're first getting started, but I wouldn't let that deter you or slow you down from starting, because just the more you do it, the more repetitions, the more comfortable you'll get, and the more you'll just understand it and feel way more confident going forward. So hopefully that's not a blocker for you in like a year from now, and you can kind of get past that.
I'll expand on that. You said like the best way to get over that is just to do it. And I'm gonna add, I'll say the best way is just to do it once. You really only need to do it that one time, and then you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get it now, and just doing it that first time, you're then gonna feel more comfortable afterwards. And then as a beginner, to make it even simple, you said, you know, get a few quotes. You don't even need to do that. It is as simple as reaching out to your supplier and saying, how much will it cost me to send it from, you know, send it into the US to this zip code? That's, you just ask that question, they'll come back and they'll say, it's $2,000, and they'll say like, here's how to pay or whatever. You pay them the money and then they organize it. That's pretty, like, that is as simple as it can be. Like, it can be that simple. I'd say just kind of get through that first process or that first time. And then, after that, you certainly can get multiple quotes and try to like make it a little bit cheaper. And there's always like ways to improve. But if you've got some hesitancy around it, it is actually pretty straightforward just to get that first time happening. I think actually, I think there's like two people in the chat there that have the name Rose in them. I think Sunrose is the one that initially asked the question, and the answer here is money and fear of failure. And I think that makes total sense. That's probably like the two biggest reasons that people would hesitate around getting started. So money, yes, it is super scary when you're first starting out sending $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 off into the ether and not knowing whether this is a scam or whether that money's gonna come back. I think, you know, if you're using a site like Alibaba, they've got a lot of checks in place so that you can sort of validate that the supply you're working with is legitimate. There's like reviews they do, you know, they check those companies, so you can at least feel comforted that the company that you're working with, okay, this is a legitimate company. As far as, what else? As far as money goes, I would say it's very unlikely that you're going to lose all of your money. If you were to spend $3,000 on your first shipment, and let's say that product is a quote unquote a fail, and it doesn't sell as well as you wanted, or it doesn't sell, it's unlikely you're gonna lose all $3,000.
Right.
If you were struggling to sell that product, you could always then just drop the price significantly below everyone else, turn on some PPC, and I would say probably the worst case scenario is like maybe losing half of your money. I know that's still not great, but that's like a really worst case scenario.
It's enough then to buy more inventory.
Yeah,
and then to increase your margins as you keep going, or to keep repeating it until you're able to increase your margins.
Yeah.
You're not like, I think sometimes that's confusing even to me sometimes when we say it. Like when we say we lost like $3,000 in our first month, we didn't like just go from 3,000 to zero. We like went from like what, like 6,000 to 3,000 or something, where we lost some money, but we made enough money back in revenue to buy the next round of inventory. So it's not like a total loss. You won't go from, you know, your inventory is an asset, so that's what we were using to basically get back in revenue to buy our next round of inventory.
Yeah, I guess like I'm taking the perspective of like absolute worst case scenario where you've spent, we're gonna go with $3,000, and you've decided this isn't working, I wanna get out, this whole business is for me, so I'm not buying more inventory. I'm saying that like, even in that absolute worst case scenario, which is pretty extreme, I don't think this would be super likely unless you just really didn't use any data or do any product research or whatever, which again, like we do our best to like help you not get into that scenario. But even in that scenario, you'd be able to like liquidate like most of that money back. So in the worst case scenario, you wouldn't lose all $3,000. I'd say you'd at least get back like $2,000, $2,500. You'd be able to like recoup a good amount of your money. So I don't know if that gives you any sort of peace of mind that like you're not, it's unlikely you're going to lose all the money that you invest in. That being said, I would highly recommend going into this business or putting in money that you're willing to lose. I know that sounds a little bit contradictory, but like I wouldn't go in with just like your life savings or like, I don't know, your child's college fund or something, but like, you know, go in and be like, okay, if the absolute worst was to happen, I did lose all this money, I'd be okay. I would never recommend using like your last dollars to get started. So that's probably what I'd say about money. Fear of failure, I think we all experience this, and it's, I don't know, it's a tough one, but it's sort of like just a matter of just like going through the process, being as informed and educated as you can, and yeah, even if again you sort of like fail and your first product fails and you reinvest that money into another product, you learn so much from that journey. I know that when I first started selling on Amazon, I learned so much about the process, but I also learned so much just about like business and entrepreneurship in general. And so, you know, even if I never sold on Amazon again, I learned so much from the journey that I would or will apply to other business ventures and things that I do in the future. So there's more to it than just the financial aspect. You go through a lot of growth from going through the process. So
Definitely.
Yeah, be brave, have a little bit of courage, and I assure you that you're gonna grow a lot from the experience.
Awesome. Cool. Well, great. This is actually very similar to this question that I wanted to answer by Laura. Asked, can you go over again how to calculate ROI, return on investment? How do we calculate how much goes into advertising and shipping? So this is so important if you're thinking about if your fear is failure. Basically, knowing what you're getting into is the best way to get around that. So what I mean by that is understanding your ROI, your expected ROI when you launch, and then in your most ideal state, which is like 6 months to a year from now, when your price is higher, you have more reviews, so you're organically converting better. So to calculate your ROI, the best thing I would recommend is to follow our How to Sell on Amazon video guide. And there's a section in there that shows you exactly how to utilize a sheet that we have, a completely free sheet. It's our profit calculator sheet. In fact, I can show you how to get there. So it's essentially an Excel spreadsheet that you can use to find what your profits are going to be on Amazon. So with the link in the description below, it'll take you to this page where we have our deals for the New Year's. But if you come over here to resources, you'll see the profit calculator here under free tools. And you just basically would fill in your information, click Get Calculator, and then we'll email you a template, which is again an Excel spreadsheet that you enter all of your cost information. So when you reach out to suppliers, they'll tell you, hey, here's your unit cost, and also here's that cost of shipping it per unit, basically. And then you're gonna input all of your numbers. You're also gonna look at your Amazon FBA fees, which we show you how to do in that video. So I'd recommend like opening up 2 screens, one watching the video, and then 2 with your product and the sheet on the other side. And then just go through that sheet, fill it out. The only thing you might not know right away is advertising. And as Greg mentioned in the video, you could use like a rough rule of thumb, which is like 20%. I think it was like your sales price.
Yeah.
Or you could just add a couple dollars. Like I like to just add like $5, $6, $7, $8 just to be conservative. But you won't truly know that number until you start advertising. And also in the beginning, that number is gonna be so much higher than it will be like a year from now when you're more profitable and your listing is stronger. So what I would say is to go into this business knowing your numbers, knowing what to expect. And that way you're gonna be more confident when you do launch your product. You're not just like going into the dark with your product and like, I hope it's profitable. You'll know what it's going to look like in every scenario, like I mentioned in the product launch phase and then later down the line.
Yeah, that's a really great resource. Also, I'd encourage you to go back and watch the replay of today and go back into Greg's presentation where he does the breakdown using the FBA calculator within Jungle Scout as well. That's another very simplified way that you can kind of calculate your ROI at different price points. And I think that's really important as well. It's like let's say you calculate, you always want to calculate how much profit would I make at the same price or at the price that I intend to sell. So if everyone else is selling around about $30 and you think like, yeah, I could sell my product for $30, or maybe everyone else is at about $28 and maybe you've got a more premium product and like, yeah, I think I could sell at $30. You want to calculate your profit margins at $30. But what we also talk about is figure out what is the lowest price that you could sell at and break even. And so you keep experimenting and go, okay, how much profit would I get at $25 or $24, $22? And you might come down and realize like, oh, okay, I could sell at $20 and I would just recoup my money back and break even. And that it actually kind of ties into the earlier question that if we always recommend you figure out your break-even price. It's like, okay, everyone else sells at 30, but I know in a worst-case scenario, I could drop my price to $20 and then most likely sell all my inventory and get my money back. So that also kind of gives you peace of mind. So there are certainly things you can do in this product research phase just to kind of have some redundancies or like a backup plan in place to kind of give you peace of mind that you can recoup your money.
And then Laura, just to answer your question back, yes, so 20% of the sales price of the unit. So like if you price it at $30 on Amazon, 20% of that would be $6. So that's what you'd factor in as a loose general rule of thumb when just like trying to calculate your ROI. Cool. Great questions.
Okay.
I saw a question earlier from I can't remember who it was from now, but asking like what like Jungle Scout like membership or subscription plan should I join? The link below has two separate offers. It has for the Suite and the Professional plan. And the Professional plan comes with Freedom Builder Bootcamp. So if you want that extra guidance from Greg, that Professional plan is going to be awesome because you get that training with it, and you also get like an insane amount of data that is tiered a little bit from the Suite plan. So in Professional plan, you'll get like 2 years of historical data on like keywords and product research. You'll be able to track more ASINs. The Suite, which is more affordable, it doesn't come with the Freedom Builder Bootcamp course, is what most people need. It doesn't have like unlimited numbers in terms of like you can't go back 2 years, but you can go back 1 year. You can get basically everything you need to launch a product on Amazon. So I would look at the Suite and the Pro plan. If you want the Freedom Builder Bootcamp course and 2 years of historical data, I would choose that one. Or if you're okay with 1 year of historical data and basically unlimited use of the tool, then Suite plan is just as fine as well.
Cool. Here's an interesting question from Kim. Is it reasonable to launch an extremely seasonal product early in the year and build up reviews for when purchasing month comes around? The short answer is yes, that is a strategy. As I think Greg mentioned briefly in his presentation, it is more tricky though to sell seasonal products because you need a lot of inventory for just like a period of time during the year, and then you're not needing it otherwise. So yeah, if you are wanting to sell seasonal products, it's probably a good idea to start selling that product earlier, and hopefully you can still get a few sales, but essentially try to sell a few months earlier or something so that you can start to build up reviews so that when that season hits, you've got a few reviews in place and people are more likely to buy from you. But again, yeah, the challenge with seasonal products is then getting the inventory forecasting right. I mean, like Jungle Scout can help you a great deal by looking at other products and seeing like, oh, okay, in the months of November, December last year, like these other products did on average 800 sales a month or 700 or whatever. But yeah, the hard thing for you selling a seasonal product is kind of getting that amount right, because you don't want to have too little stock and then not be able to maximize that period, but then you don't want to order too much stock and then you're left over with all of this inventory that you can't sell for another year. So there are challenges certainly with seasonal products, but there's also opportunity there if you're willing to take on that extra risk.
I wanted to clear up something because I've seen a few comments on this, but like if you already have Jungle Scout and you want to take advantage of the deal, you can just reach out to support either within your Jungle Scout tool, like the question icon at the bottom right-hand side. You can reach out and contact support or head over to the Jungle Scout website to get the support email to take advantage of the deal or to add Freedom Builder Bootcamp. I've seen that question here a few. So you can still take advantage of the deal and use FBB or get FBB if you're an existing member already. Yeah, and then there was a question here I wanted to get to. It was to clarify our strategy about, so the question is like, if bootstrapping, how can not being profitable, which is what we did in the beginning, make a sustainable model or strategy? And would it make, the second half of this question is, would it make more sense to do FBM first, where we fulfill our own products instead of sending into FBA? So to clarify that, we were willing to go in the red a little bit fast because we wanted to just turn that corner as fast as possible. So it is sustainable if you're starting out unprofitable, because in our eyes, like once we got to like 100 reviews or so, like maybe 50 reviews, now our listing is going to be converting a lot better. And then once we get to that point, 50 or 100 reviews, we can just slow everything down and then start becoming more profitable. So for us, it was like a race to those reviews. So it is sustainable being unprofitable in the beginning with that mentality.
Yeah, I mean, there's another way you could like kind of flip it, and rather than saying like we're being unprofitable, you could actually flip that and say we've got, in our case, like a $7,000 marketing budget to like help us launch. And so it's an investment into launching our product essentially.
Exactly.
And after spending that amount of time or amount of money, we come out the other end with a profitable product. And you kind of, you have those sort of like startup expenses and marketing costs for any business or product. So that's like maybe another way to look at it, is like not necessarily like being unprofitable, but more so you've got like a budget put aside or like a certain amount of money that needs to be dedicated or spent on helping you launch effectively.
Exactly. Cool.
But yeah, I guess, I don't know, I'm trying to think any other ways to like add value to that question.
Right.
Because I realize we're using the word unprofitable and the fact that we weren't profitable to begin with, but in all of Greg's presentation, the main point was you don't want to sell a product that isn't profitable. And those are two different things.
Yes.
You need to have a product that has a strong profit margin built in. So you want, at least 100% ROI ideally, and like a healthy 20+% ideally profit margin. And that might translate to at least $4, $5, $6 plus profit per unit. So that is absolutely vital. You don't want to keep selling a product if it's only getting you $1 or $2, $3 back per unit, because that doesn't give you enough margin. If anything, like any unexpected expenses in your business, or even without that, it's just going to take you a really, 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 really long time to grow that business, because you're not getting much profit back in order to like reinvest into another product. So you do need a strong profit per unit, but also at the same time, just realize that perhaps for the first few months, you might need to sacrifice that profit and sell at a break even just to get those first reviews. I don't know if that like was just repeating the same thing or if that helped.
Well,
like
another visualization that I've always thought of is, so picture yourself in a perfect world, like a year from now after you launch your product. Your price is at $30. And that's like the perfect case scenario because everyone in the market is selling at $30. So you're in a good position there price point wise. When I give, like, if Lenny's a customer and I give him this product, I want to get back at least 30% or 100% ROI or 30% net margin. So I want to make sure my margins are good when I give him this product organically at my ideal price point. But in the beginning, I'm not going to be at my ideal price point because I need to convince people to buy my product that has like hardly any reviews. And also I'm going to be spending a lot on ads. So in that time, that's like your launch phase. It's great to be profitable, but that's not what I'm at least initially calculating. I'm calculating the ideal world that I'm going to get to at some point and making sure I'm profitable there. And so I think that's like really what Greg is talking about. When you hand your product to somebody, are you getting back a good profit? Now, there's gonna be times we have to spend money on handing that product to somebody, and you still wanna be profitable there. But really, it's just like, to simplify it, make sure you're profitable when you hand the product to somebody, like you're getting back a good amount of money in return. But in the beginning, it's not gonna be that profitable.
Yeah, actually, I'd recommend people check out, there's a video on our channel, it's just like our first year in review,
Yes,
which
yeah.
it basically breaks down what Greg covered briefly there in his presentation. It breaks down our entire first year of selling, and I think that will give you a much better understanding of, or a deeper understanding of like what that first year could look like. This was just our experience, but yeah, basically, like when we first started selling this product, we were selling it at $20. I think it was about $20, which was break even. We weren't making any profit on it. Everyone else was selling closer to $30. And so we priced at $20, and then that helped us get a flood of sales despite the fact that we didn't have any reviews. If we would have tried selling at $30 to begin with, we would have got no sales, or basically no sales. We wouldn't have built any reviews, and our product would still probably not be doing well. But we made a sacrifice for the, during the first year, sold without any profit, and then by the time our first year came around, we put our price back up to $30. I don't know what it is now, but we've even sold it at $32, $34, even $36.
36.
And now we're really profitable, but it was only because we made that sacrifice at the beginning.
And I think we were calculating our profits on $32.99, which is where everybody was selling at.
Yeah.
So that was our North Star. But we knew we would be selling at like $20 initially. Also, I just linked 2 videos that Lenny was referring to. One was a live video that we had a Q&A with, and one was like a produced video without the Q&A. Check out both those videos. That will walk through what Lenny just mentioned on our first year launching the product, our latest product. Really good question, actually, from Heaven's Ascension here. How does finding a product that can be improved work? And this is a huge thing that we're looking at now with launching a new product on Amazon, is you want to find products that you can differentiate and bring to the market that's better than what's already on the market. Sometimes this is a design change, but ideally it's actually something more functional, like you're making the product actually better for somebody. So to find those types of products, just look at what products are already on the market, and you can use Jungle Scout's review analysis tool. So it's under the tool tab in your Jungle Scout account. And basically you'll plug in an ASIN for any product on Amazon, and much like what ChatGPT can do, it's gonna show you what customers are saying about that product. It's gonna show you all the positive things they like about it. So make sure you keep doing those with your product. But it's also gonna show you all the negative stuff they don't like about it. And then it's gonna interpret all that data with hundreds of reviews to look at and say, how can you improve the product? What can you do differently to beat this specific product? And essentially it's just looking at the negative reviews and just trying to make the inverse of that happen. So I would just look at products that you're thinking about selling, plug them into a tool like the review analysis tool in Jungle Scout, and then see what people are saying they don't like about it. Take those feedback to your supplier, and then you have to get that improved. That's your North Star for launching this product. And then once that happens, make sure you're promoting that correctly with your marketing. So put those changes in your images, in your title, in your bullet points. Basically, if the product's too thin, everyone's like, I hate these thin products. Make yours triple the size. And then your second photo is us versus competitors, and it's showing how big yours is compared to one of your competitors. So that's what I would do, is just do review analysis for products on Amazon.
Awesome. Question here from Dustin. Can you explain more about barcoding? I know where to get and what barcode to get, but my confusion is, do I need to barcode each unit? All right, I'm gonna pause and take a second here, because explaining barcodes is always super, super tricky. We do have, well, actually it's part of our how to sell on Amazon video, which we released a couple of months ago. And you can go into the description there, and you can see the specific chapter all about barcoding. So I'll try to explain it simply here, but I'd recommend going to that one. It's got a lot of great visuals. But yes, you do need to put a barcode on each unit. When you send your product into Amazon, each one of your units needs to have an FNSKU barcode on the product. And this is a barcode that Amazon gives you for your product. So I saw that you had this one here. We have an FNSKU barcode right here. So if we send in 1,000 units of this product, every single one needs to have this barcode. The barcode is the same. There's just one barcode per product. But however many units you send in, it needs to have that barcode. If I sent in 2 different products, like this, I was selling this bottle of Topo Chico, then this would need to have its own barcode. But every unit would have the same barcode. Hopefully that makes sense, but let me know if it doesn't.
I'm just adding the video to the chat as well. And then I see sometimes like the hyperlink isn't there, so I just added the title of the video that you can type into our Jungle Scouts YouTube channel if that's an easier way of finding the video that he's referring to.
Cool. Question here from Laura. Also, what are your thoughts regarding selling powders and supplements? So basically, that's not something that I have much experience with or personally much interest in. I know there's a lot of money to make in that industry, and I've seen like stories from a lot of people that have started their own, supplements brands and that kind of thing. It's a very, very competitive, often cutthroat kind of industry because there's so much money there. Personally, it's just not something I'm interested in. I think it can be extremely lucrative, but again, it also comes with a lot of challenges and a lot of competition as well. So I would say if you're just a beginner, I wouldn't recommend it if you're just looking to sell something on Amazon. Yeah. I would probably only recommend it if you were really passionate about creating a supplement or something that is different to what's on the market, and you are willing to kind of like take on the extra challenges, getting it, FDA approved, or kind of like going through any additional loopholes and having to, you probably also need like a lot of money as well. It's probably like very capital intensive. So yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with it. It's not something that I'm interested in, but it could be worth you doing research on if it is something that you're passionate about.
Definitely.
Okay, all right, so we've answered a lot of these. There's a question here. Hi, can we get the list of distributors from Jungle Scout for wholesale for US and Canada? So wholesale is not something that I've got much experience with, but what I was going to suggest was we do have a video on wholesale, and I believe that there's like some recommendations within that video on finding distributors. Yeah,
it's our latest wholesale video. We have a few on the channel, so if you just go to our channel and type in wholesale in the search bar, it should be our latest video that walks through the different types of suppliers. There's and the brand, there's different agencies or distributors, online distributors. So check out that video. Good recommendation for that. Question here about when are you making like full detailed videos about keywords. So wanted to answer this one because similar to the last few things I've said, but like if you go to our channel, you just type in keywords, we have a bunch of really good content, just like hyper focused on that topic. But we also have like that topic keywords nested into our bigger videos, like how to sell on Amazon. So yeah, I highly recommend just checking out our channel and then using those keywords to search for the content you're looking for.
Let's see. Okay, so there's a question here from Adil saying, speaking of the number of sellers, why doesn't it match to the number of sellers when browsing for a listing on Amazon? Even on the product research, it's somehow confusing. Number of sellers don't line up. I'm trying to think how to answer this, because I know sometimes people get mixed up between the number of sellers and I suppose that's maybe more like when we're talking about competition levels. I suppose like the easy answer, if you're using say the product database and it says that there's like 3 sellers on a listing and you go to Amazon and it's different, what I'd recommend you do within like the product database, if you scroll all the way to the right, it'll tell you when that data was last updated. And you've got the option there to refresh. So usually most of our products get updated every day or every week. depending on how the volume of sales. So it generally gets updated fairly regularly, but if you click on the refresh button, that will update it immediately, and it should match exactly what you see on Amazon. So yeah, keep that in mind. You've got that refresh button, and you can, and it tells you the actual date that from when that data came. So hopefully that helps.
Good question about suppliers. So what are some good tips on sourcing a reputable manufacturer outside of using Alibaba? So if you didn't want to use Alibaba for some reason, like maybe you don't want your manufacturer to be located in China, maybe you want like, lower import duties or whatever the reason is. There are a few websites that you can use, like ThomasNet, which is good for US-based suppliers. It's a different UI, a different way of contacting suppliers, but it's available. I think it's called India Mart, where I actually used it once to find some suppliers from India. And there's a lot of basically like websites like that that are specific to a country. Like Afghanistan might have its own Alibaba, essentially. Now, it's not as powerful or as UI friendly as Alibaba is, but another good tip for finding suppliers if you have a Jungle Scout account is using the Jungle Scout supplier database. So we have videos on this, but we also have it included in our How to Sell on Amazon video that we're referencing a lot in this video. But you can search for suppliers a number of different ways. You can use keywords like you would on Alibaba. You can actually use an ASIN. So this is one of my favorite ways to find what suppliers my competitors are using. And so you just type in an ASIN into the supplier database search, and sometimes it will not come up because not every supplier and manufacturer is on the public records that we're accessing. But that is a really great way to find suppliers without using Alibaba. And again, just a lot of Google searches. So if you type in, you're looking for water bottles for some reason, you can type in water bottle suppliers or water bottle manufacturers in India, and you can do that in Google. And a lot of times you'll see different websites or even like companies located there, but Google will be your best friend as well if you don't want to use Alibaba.
All right, there's a question here. Greg Mercer used to tell about criteria for product research. Does he have updated criteria to be used now in 2024? Lots of love to Greg Mercer. Yeah, well, I suppose like he covers a lot of his main criteria in the presentation earlier, so I'd encourage you to go back and review that. But we have also released I guess like our product research checklist, which people can check out as well. And you can, wait, I was gonna say find that on our website, or is that not quite ready? Oh, actually, no, we're gonna link to it in the description as well if we haven't already.
Yeah, maybe check back in the video description here.
Yeah, so we're gonna add it to the description of this video. Check back a little bit later today and we'll have that link added to the description where you can, basically get a PDF that's going to have all the criteria on one page, basically a product research cheat sheet. So definitely come back and check that one out. Laura followed up about the supplements question. I'm really passionate, but what if these specific supplements only have a few sellers? And I think you also said maybe like 3 sellers. So, okay, I guess you're talking about wholesaling, like selling an existing supplement versus like starting your own. I don't know if I've got any more additional thoughts. If you are looking to wholesale existing supplements, I think only 3 sellers on a product is maybe like a fairly positive thing, right? Like, if you are wholesaling something, it's like maybe only 3 sellers on there is like a fairly good sign, would you say?
Yeah, it's funny because we had Brian Connolly who works at Jungle Scout. He does wholesale. He actually had a different opinion on that. He actually would find the products with like 10 sellers because that means the product's hot. He basically just said it's very, very hard to find those types of products with like 3 sellers on it that are also selling very high amounts of volume. So if you found that, that's great. If you're doing product research and you're using Jungle Scout for that, I wouldn't like limit your number of sellers in like the maximum sellers field that we have in product database. But yeah, I mean, if you can find an ASIN that if you're wholesaling that has only 3 sellers and it's got high volume, then that's great. The lower the better, but don't be afraid of like, selling a product that has 12 sellers on it just because it's doing well. There's gonna be a lot of interest in those types of products.
Yeah, so it sounds like you might have found like a great product if it's also, yeah, you can see that it's got a lot of, does a lot of sales per month, and if you can, purchase that product at like a good price and make a profit, then sounds like a great opportunity. When I answered earlier, I was more thinking about like starting your own supplement brand.
Right.
But yeah, if you're looking more at like wholesaling a product, I think I don't see any issue with that if the numbers make sense and you can still make a profit. It sounds like, yeah, only 3 sellers is ideal. So yeah, I'd say go for it. That's awesome.
And if there's 100 units a month, which it looks like, that high volume is very, subjective. We like to say 300 a month, but if there's only 3 sellers.
But I mean, it's like, when we say like 300 as well, we're typically talking about products that might be selling like $20 to $30.
Right.
So it's kind of like, that's similar to if you were selling something that's like $60, $80 dollars. You might only need 100, 150 sales per month to get the same amount of like revenue and profit. So yeah.
And really, if you're storing your own inventory, you don't have any storage costs, like it's just sitting in your house, then that's completely fine. It's when you start sending it to Amazon and then you're paying for it, if it sits there unsold, that it becomes an unprofitable venture. So yeah, if you're holding on to your own inventory, I think 100 units a month or anything lower would even be fine.
Cool. All right, we're coming up on the hour here, so we'll take a couple more questions before we wrap it up today. Let's see. Oh, I'm trying. Let's see. How does FBA restock work on Amazon's end after selling out but still having products in the Amazon warehouse? I'm just trying to I don't know if I quite understand.
If it means like the only inventory that's still in Amazon after you sold out is like from customer returns that you can't resell. If that's what this is referring to, you can liquidate it through Amazon. So Amazon will basically like buy it from you from like an insanely low cost, but at least it's something. Or you can just send it back to you or somewhere else. So you can send it to your supplier if they're okay with receiving that inventory.
Yeah, is it like liquidate, dispose, or send back to you?
You could dispose too. They can get rid of it if you don't want to deal with the hassle of shipping cost. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that makes sense, because I think that after you've sold out and your listing no longer has any units available, I think really the only option or the only remaining inventory would be things that have been returned. Unless sometimes Amazon will move your inventory between different fulfillment centers, and sometimes that might make it unavailable. Like maybe you've got 150 units that's in transit, and I think in your listing, you'll see it marked as like reserved. But I don't know. I don't know if that would typically make your listing inactive. I think normally you could probably people could still purchase that inventory. It just might have a slightly longer shipping time. But yeah, so I think you covered it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, a follow-up question from Laura. So should I do? I think you're probably saying FBM, not FBA, like fulfilled by merchant versus FBA. What would be my thoughts there? I mean, personally, I'm a fan of FBA because it's very hands-off. You send it in, Amazon does all the fulfillment.
Yeah.
I like things easy, and so I don't want to be shipping things out myself. And very generally speaking, like I'll start out and say there are reasons and scenarios where I think it does make sense to do FBM, but generally I've found like that when you do the calculations of how much it would cost to fulfill yourself, that to me, it doesn't seem, the numbers don't seem to make sense, where it's like, oh, actually, not making any more, or I'm not saving any more, or potentially even spending more money to fulfill it myself than just getting Amazon to do it. And then losing out on the benefits of FBA, such as having the Prime badge on your listing. A lot of Prime members or like a lot of people will only shop or predominantly shop products that are Prime, meaning they can get 2-day shipping and they can get it quickly. So yeah, I don't know. I might be a little bit biased, but I personally prefer FBA because it's a lot easier. And generally, I think I don't know if you will always like save money with FBN. There might be some scenarios. But the only catch with FBA is what you mentioned earlier. I think if you have a lot of inventory that is just sitting there, you can end up paying quite a bit in like monthly and long-term storage fees if you're not moving the inventory. So as long as you can keep your inventory moving and not have it sit there for too long, then I would probably recommend FBA.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Question here. Should I go for Amazon KDP or Amazon Wholesale FBA? I'm a beginner looking for a long-term business. Really, the decision's up to you. I'd say we actually have videos on both. We've got a video on how to do Amazon KDP, and we also have a few videos on wholesale as well. So I'd recommend like checking out our channel and like learning about both of those. KDP, you can pretty much start up with almost no upfront costs at all. Wholesale, the advantages are you generally need less capital than you do need for private label. I would say when you say long-term business, my opinion is that private label is the best business model long-term, which is essentially where you have your own brand versus something like wholesale where you're selling someone else's products. They might terminate that agreement at some point, or, there's not as much profit margin because there's like a middleman involved. You'll get the most profits and the most advantages from private label in the long term, but utilizing other models like wholesale or KDP is like a great way, like great lower cost options to get started making money. And then you can transition to private label or actually even do both. I know there's like a lot of people that they have some wholesale products, but then they've over time built out their line of private label as well, and they do both. So there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I'd encourage you to watch our content on KDP and wholesale and see which kind of catches your eye more.
Definitely.
All right, so we have hit over the hour here for the live Q&A. So we're gonna wrap it up here today. Thank you so much for all of your questions. It's been a real pleasure answering them. Hopefully we've given you some value in the answers that we've given. If so, give us a big thumbs up down on the video. We'd greatly appreciate it. And if you're looking for more content on getting started on Amazon or really any of the topics that we've like talked about today, I'd also encourage you to hit the subscribe button as well as we put out regular content. We're also planning to do a lot more of these live Q&As so that we can answer what you're wanting, answer the questions that you specifically want answered. So definitely subscribe so you get notified about any videos or live streams that we have coming up. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you all in the next video. Take care.